Thank you.
Somebody over there.
Oh, the good-looking one.
Yeah.
Whenever your time's there, make sure to this item, hit record.
Okay. I
And
remember
then,
her showing me
and
that.
then when they go to the next one, what I usually do is once they take this item and you hit record, it moves all of this over
We
here, then
had,
you start coming.
they were supposed to give
start
us the
from
listing
here.
of
I
stone
usually
fruit
work
versus
on
their
the
other
next,
Yeah.
ready for the next one.
equipment,
Not
and
having
they did that, and we
Oh,
put
okay.
values on it,
So if I
and
were,
they were gonna continue to
I can still
today, so
on
they're
that
supposed
one.
to be here today.
right.
okay.
To continue,
The new girls again?
the hearing.
Yes. Change of clerk.
Yeah. We'd already actually decided to divide out the equipment between us.
They,
That's all we're doing today.
You going to be making motions today?
Either me or Bill, yeah.
Morning. How are you this morning?
Fine.
Good morning, Barbara.
Run back and get my fruit picks.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Assessment Appeals Board for Tulare County for February 24th, 2014. Sitting on the panel today is myself, George Azunian, William McKinley, Lance Morris, and as alternate,
Okay.
Glenn Fowler. Going to agenda item number 1. Board members, any comments? Staff?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I don't know how many of you know our actual clerk to the board, Michelle Baldwin, but our chief clerk for the Board of Supervisors will be assisting our clerk for the Assessment Appeals Board, Candace Ruby. As you know, she has taken over for Kyria, who was working extra help and got a regular job with the county in RMA. She's still extra help, but it's with an analyst position, so something she wanted. So we were very sad to lose Candace from County Council, but we're happy to have her here. And so she won't need a lot of help, but Michelle's here for a little while.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Assessor?
And this morning.
Boy, you guys are all ready to go, huh? Our microphone's a little bit hot today, so our comments are getting out there quite well. Okay, going to agenda item number 2, deemed timely petition. Can the clerk give me a background as to where we are with this application?
I believe it got resolved by the assessor.
Okay.
My understanding is the clerk wanted to leave it on the agenda or on the docket because it had been formally continued last month, and so
So is
needed
it,
they wanted some closure in terms of board action by the clerk did.
so is it going to be a withdrawal?
What does the assessor think is the tidiest way of handling it at this point?
I think at this point in time, if the board just denied the application to be deemed timely would be the tidiest way, rather than going through and accepting the application and then having to rule either for or against it.
Okay.
Well, we never got around to making any findings of fact because we never got the information on when the base year value was established and all of that sort of stuff. I think it might be actually the tidiest to deem the petition withdrawn based on the assessor's representation that it was resolved at the assessor's office.
Okay.
Want a withdrawal motion?
To treat the petition as withdrawn.
One of the things that we should be doing is reading in this particular case, we don't have an application number unassigned. We do have an APN number, so in your motion, just give the APN number along with the motion, and that'll be sufficient.
Say that again.
When you put in your motion, make your motion, read in the APN number.
APN number, not the application.
Well, there's no application number on this.
Okay, all right. I move that we accept item number 2 on the agenda, APN 051-130-005-000, as withdrawn.
No. We were going to do that as denied for
Well,
timely.
I just thought we ought to treat it as, we'll treat it as withdrawn.
But it is denied. I mean,
Because we never
withdrawn.
made any factual findings regarding whether we had jurisdiction or not.
Okay.
But as, we actually haven't received anything from them that says they want to withdraw the application. So I think that it should be deemed denied for deemed timely petition.
Okay.
Denied for what?
Timely petition.
So we'll just deny the petition.
It's been resolved with the assessor, so.
I move that we deny that we remove it or deny it for lack of timely petition.
Have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay. Going to agenda item number 3. Is there anyone here from Sunkist? Okay. All right. At this time, then, we'll have you sworn in, and with the same time, we'll swear in the assessor.
Well, I mean, it's just a late request for postponement, so we're not
So it doesn't need to be
going to,
time,
we're not
sworn in.
going to receive any testimony today.
Okay. So in that, if that's
Excuse
the
me,
case,
I am assuming your name is not Gilbert Akriba?
My name is not Gilbert Ursiba. My name is Paula Eagleman. I'm with PTA.
And you're a property tax assistant?
I'm with Property Tax Assistance Company, and I'm here to request a continuance because Mr. Ursiba is on medical leave and will be back next month, but he's requesting a continuance to July.
There was already a postponement on one of the items on the agenda.
The 2011?
We're trying to keep them all together.
Right.
Thought
Right.
if we opened it and did a continuance that way.
Yeah, so the 2011, we already had a postponement, and we shouldn't, and a 2-year waiver, presumably.
I believe so.
so are we going to then postpone this to what month did you request, ma'am?
He requested July.
July.
Since I know the board doesn't meet in April or May, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
So do I hear a motion to continue, or is it continue or postpone?
We do have a waiver.
They were filed in July, so we'd need a 2-year waiver on the
We do have
remaining
a
ones.
waiver.
For the 2011 one, we do have a waiver.
Yeah, so we would grant the postponement conditional on a 2-year waiver for the 2012s as well. They were filed in July, so we're going to need
No,
it.
I have a waiver I have a postponement or schedule letter that includes a waiver in it. I don't know if this is sufficient, but it does have all 4 application numbers on it.
We need to give that to the clerk.
That's enough.
Do we have the two-year waiver on the 2012s? Yeah, yeah. Out by the clerk's
This is-
office. And
Yeah, this is just the postponement reschedule, so we'll need the waiver form filled out for those applications.
So actually, the docket is actually incorrect. The assessor did object to granting it at the time of the late request, so that was why the clerk couldn't grant it. Under your local rules, the clerk can grant a late request if the other party doesn't object.
Okay,
What are we doing?
postponing.
Your local rules provide that a late request by one party, even when it's the first request, has to be approved by the board.
Okay,
So the question is, do you want to postpone the hearing?
so we want to postpone the whole bunch.
Right. And so it'd be a second postponement on the 2011 application and a first postponement conditional on signing a two-year waiver on the 2012s.
All right. Then I move that we accept item number 3 as withdrawn, as postponed, and that includes APN 300-030-045-000, APN 800-254-898-000, and 800 for the application number 36, 37, 38, and 39 for the same APN.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. See you in July.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we're going to hearing confirmed attendance, and agenda item number 4 is Fruit Patch.
Yes, and I will just note for the clerk for future reference, when we have a continued hearing, you should put the original panel on the hearing so that
Yeah.
we get the right 3 people.
Okay.
Because when we have done it, we've started the hearing, we've received evidence, we've had testimony, then it needs to be the same panel the next time.
Okay.
And so in this particular case, when I went back and
I'll
looked
send
at my notes from the original hearing date in October, it happens to be the same panel as today.
Okay, very good.
So it is Mr. Zuni and Mr. McKinley and Mr. Morris with Mr. Fowler as the alternate.
Okay,
And
representatives.
if you would you like me to kind of recap the status?
If you'd like.
Okay. The board deliberated in December and directed staff to advise the parties. And your board wanted to reopen the hearing for additional evidence. You'd originally said January, but allowed them to postpone that, and they obviously have chosen to do that, so I won't read that part. The board tentatively accepts the applicant's argument that vertical integration in the tree fruit industry has caused some level of economic obsolescence for independent tree fruit packers. The board will consider additional evidence and argument by both parties on this point. In this regard, the board believes that any reduction in the value of the personal property on the subject property on the lien dates at issue, if the board ultimately finds economic obsolescence at all, should apply only to the personal property used exclusively for packing tree fruit. And so you asked the applicant to provide to the assessor a breakdown of their personal property, what's used only for tree fruit, what's useful for other things, what's useful only for citrus. And then the assessor would present the assessed value and however that argument comes out. And you haven't reached any tentative conclusions regarding the amount or percentage of any reduction for the alleged economic obsolescence. But you also, number 3 then, you also tentatively found that in contrast to the prior hearing that we held for earlier years, you did believe that the applicant had showed that Fruit Patch Inc. and its holding company should be treated as a single economic entity. But that was, again, tentative, and the parties can present additional evidence or argument on that point as well. So that's where we are with regard to the board's instructions after December.
Okay. If representatives from Fruit Patch would like to come forward, get sworn in, and We'll go ahead and continue. No, I don't think so. Okay, if the,
Might be more space at the other one unless you have a PowerPoint. We can raise and lower them. Do we want to?
that good for you?
We can raise the
Podium.
podium. Oh. If it's too low for you.
Okay, if the clerk would swear in the first applicant and the assessor.
Please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. Do you solemnly swear?
Sorry, you don't have to repeat. I'm thinking.
Do you solemnly swear to affirm that the testimony you are about to give in the matter now pending before the Assessment Appeals Board is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please state your name for the record.
Daryl Carlos, Wayne Boos, B-O-O-S.
Okay. If applicant would like to continue?
Clerk will now read the application number and the APN numbers.
Okay.
Application number 2011-00401, APN 029-120-015-000, and application 2012-00490, APN number 029-120-015-000.
Okay.
Morning. Michelle, is it? I have a handout. Okay. Good morning. The attached packet I've given you is just kind of a summary. The first 2 pages are a summary of, again, reiteration of their decline in their revenue. As you'll see, from 2008 to 2012, their fruit patches revenues declined about 87%. On the next page, which is their pack outs, the amount of fruit handled and packed, basically you'll see I did declines from different years, but you basically see there's been a significant decline in their business. And, in 2011 and 12, it's 55% and then about 90%, depending on which year you look, as your base year. And trying to come up with a percentage as far as what we believe is the obsolescence factor, it's really, in my opinion, not fair to use a decline in business because it's been so significant that if you were to say they go to zero, then we'd have to say the equipment's worth nothing, which we know there's some value to it. So on the next page, which we believe is the best way of trying to come up with the economic obsolescence factor for their equipment, is some comparable sales that we've obtained from an outside party. The sales are, I believe they should be in date order. In other words, sale number 1 being the most recent, which was in around 2011. And so those sales indicate external obsolescence factors, as you'll see summarized there, of a range from basically the low 24% to a high of 57%. We believe that probably the sale number 1 is most indicative of the decline that Fruit Patch suffered due to its due to the likeness of the facility and the timing of the sale, which is what we believe is a economic obsolescence factor of about 35%.
Okay, and do you have others? This is, and I'm looking at this, maybe I'm on the wrong page, correct me. ZNS Facilities?
Correct.
Okay, and you have sale number 2.
Correct. That's begins with it was actually the F&S Farms Inc.
And let's go back, I should ask, the Z&M, what size is that, where is it located, and what size is that facility compared to yours?
ZNS, I personally been on a facility because as a farmer, we also took some of our fruit to ZNS. It's in a similar area of fruit patch, between the Dinuba Reedley area out there, and it's a fairly similar size.
Your facility?
Yeah, it's a fruit patch. It is a newer facility. It had improvements within the facility as well too in the middle 2000s. So it is definitely a more also upgraded state-of-the-art facility. So we're not comparing it to something that's really.
Is this citrus or deciduous?
This is tree fruit. This is tree fruit facility.
Best tree fruit then?
Tree fruit, yes.
No citrus? No. I noted on here there was a degreening room, is the reason I was asking.
Okay, and that's Z&M Fresh Fruit. The second one then is what name?
That was,
F&S?
correct, yes.
Okay.
That one was actually in Fireball, and it appears to be a pretty small facility actually, which not sure how comparable it is to Fruit Patch, but
Okay, then you want to move to sale number 3?
correct. That was primarily a Pruner Cold Storage, Inc. That was a Tulare County property. Again, that's looks like a fairly small facility, and they determined the economic obsolescence on that facility to be about 57%. But
Now, Blaine Farms is in the nut processing business. They also in tree fruit? Or do they use this for something other than the tree fruit business that they were in prior? Just a cold storage, it's not a processing plant.
Did you prepare these comparables?
no, we obtained them from an outside party.
Who did you obtain them from? From Pearson Realty. Okay.
Okay, and what community or town is Pruner Cold Storage in?
According to, it was in Exeter.
Exeter. Okay.
Correct.
And that is sale number 3?
Correct. or?
So just to reiterate, kind of what we did is, obviously, we have a decline in revenue and a decline in boxes, which is fairly significant, up to 90%. And so we're just using this as some additional, evidence or
Right.
information to kind of come up with that, because.
Well, I think we,
90% was a little bit too high as a
I think we've alluded to this in our previous meetings, that either we asked or the assessor asked for an appraisal. And in effect, this is the raw data of an appraisal. It could be used as an appraisal. So this is welcome information. Basically, we're just trying to determine whether it's relevant to your particular situation. So if you'd like to continue to sale number 4,
Let's see, this was this property here was located in Delano, California. And let's see, I'm sorry, I'm not intimately familiar with all the details on the appraisals because we were kind of just using them as a guide. This property says that it was improved with table grade cold storage. So it looks like it was primarily, I think, a cold storage facility.
okay, just a question. If it's just cold storage, would it be applicable for the processing of oranges or other fruit other than tree fruit?
Well, the citrus is a little bit different, but also is that there's only so much need for citrus facilities as well too. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's not enough citrus in the valley to take over all the cold storage facilities that are counted as tree fruit. A lot of the land has been put into nuts, and other crops don't really require cold storage. So there is some economic oscillation.
Okay.
Is your facility ammonia? This is ammonia?
Any other questions? Stanley? Okay.
Yeah, I understood that we were going to see a breakdown of which equipment was to
We're,
sell fruit.
I assume we're still going to get there.
Is that still coming?
I have that.
You have that?
Okay. All right, let the applicant finish their presentation first. So going on to, again, in your package, to sale number 5.
See, that would be sorry, I didn't really do a good job of numbering the pages here, but I believe that's the Limlin Orchards facility. Because I think they were primarily in the citrus industry, and this was again, primarily a cold storage facility.
I had a question. On this depreciation analysis you put together, who did depreciation? Was it a CPA, accountant, or an appraiser?
The depreciation, which one are you referring
I'm
to,
looking
sir?
at sale number 4, continued depreciation analysis.
Yeah, that was Pearson Realty provided all this information.
Pearson Realty, and
Yes,
what
sir.
was their source?
I assume they get it from the property tax records.
Got the depreciation from the property tax record?
I think in part, yes.
This is not actual then.
Yeah, I don't know that it was. They probably wouldn't have information on their actual book amounts.
They don't have access to the full amount, and they set up the depreciation schedules, is that correct?
That's correct.
So the source is kind of iffy, is that correct?
Well, I think it's pertinent to what we're looking at because they would be working with values from property tax, relative to they were ultimately sold for.
Was the property tax set up on this depreciation schedule?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite
In other
fond.
words, this schedule that's in the depreciation, the 57.8%, was that set up for the depreciated, that was property tax
That
reduction?
is, yeah, that's their calculation of the amount of obsolescence, the property based on the ultimate selling price relative to the assessed value for property tax.
Yeah, so this is based upon the actual sale. This is comparable sales. So you take the property tax assessed value and compare it to the sale and do that here and determine what the.
So this is hypothetical.
Well, this is actual sale. This is actual.
It's the actual sale, but the depreciation is hypothetical?
Based upon
Based upon what?
the assessed value.
Okay.
Was this sale conducted within the time that's legally required to be considered?
Yeah, these,
We're talking about the number 4, I believe.
correct, yeah, these sales as, that we're now talking about are further back.
So is that within the allowable time to be considered?
You can go back as far as you want. You can just only go forward 3 months. So comp number 1 is
Actually, I believe there's a time period, and you can't go back indefinitely. To be considered as a comp, which they are presenting these as comparables, they have to be within, I believe it's 3 months. They're presenting these
the
as
statute only has a limit going forward in time. Comp number 1 is only admissible for this board for the value on January 1st, 2012. It's too late to consider for the value on January 1st, 2011. The person presenting comparable sales can go backwards in time as far as they want. They can only go forwards in time 3 months. Now, of course, the probative value of something way back in time is not very helpful. But there's no limit going backwards in time under the statutes.
Okay.
Unless the assessor has more information on that, that's my understanding.
So they can go back indefinitely.
Yeah, and you know
That's
how
what you're
useful that
saying.
is.
Well-
You know, how useful is a sale from
Right.
from the year 2000 for the assessed
Okay.
value on January 1st of 2011? You know, who knows? But
Okay,
Well,
thank you.
I think what the applicant is arguing and that we're listening to is that how the economic turndown started, again, who's throwing darts as far as when that started?
Right.
2007, 2008, 2009. In some cases, it takes a while for the effect of a correction to actually reflect in the data. And one of the things we hadn't seen prior as far as sales is data. And that's what we're looking at. And we can, the board can take a look at it and say if it's relevant. And the time period does make a difference, but in my opinion, has to do with the economic devaluation of this entity. In other words, not the physical devaluation. I mean, one of the questions I was going to ask, and I'll ask later, is that if all of a sudden they started processing $200,000 a year in product, could the plant physically handle that? And obviously, I can't imagine why they would voluntarily not process somebody's fruit because they just don't feel like it that day.
Right.
Okay? But in all fairness to the applicant, let them go ahead and finish their presentation, and then we'll go ahead and let the assessor chime in.
Thank you.
I think we were on,
Variable sale number 4.
yes.
we're 5. I think they'd gotten to 5. Lemlin Orchards.
On that sale, the next 3 lines is RCN LPD. What does that stand for?
Replacement cost new less.
That's what?
Normal depreciation.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and continue.
So it has to do with the assessor's factors. How there are those tables that the state board sends out for, if it has a 15-year life, it depreciates so much per year, but you'll have the separate calculation for the replacement cost new.
Let's see, sale number 5 was, it's labeled F8 on top. It was a Dan Tudor and Sons, and that's a Kern County property.
I'm sorry, that's actually number 4. If you go through and do them.
5, yeah, you're right. Number 5, then, yeah, you're right, is Limlin. I think they maybe got out of order. No, number 5's Limlin. Let's see, and that's a Tulare County property. Primarily, that was a cold storage facility, and on that one, the estimated obsolescence was 31%. And then lastly, the sale 6 was the Ashland cold storage, was located in Dinuba.
I'm sorry, that says it's in Fresno County.
Oh, does it say Fisher? Oh, yes, I'm sorry, in Reedley in Fresno County, correct. Reedley. And that one had a indicated external depreciation of 24%. Again, that one was
It's a little
primarily.
smaller facility, right?
So the Aslan cold storage is number 6?
Let's see. That's correct.
Right. And are they in Kingsburg?
I think their packing facility is in Kingsburg, but this is the cold storage.
I see. Okay.
So our closest comparable, obviously, was the Z&M facility.
Now, is Aslan in the tree fruit packing business?
Yes.
Just curious, are they vertically integrated, where they process the majority of their own fruit that they grow?
No, they had outside growers primarily. I believe they've shut down since.
I see. Okay. Any other questions from the board?
And just again to remind you of their use of Comp 1, because it was after March 31st of 2011 would not be useful to your, it would not be admissible for the value on January 1st, 2011.
But in your opinion, 2 through 6 would?
Correct, yeah, because they're further back than, yeah, the Francesco and Comp 2 was January 11th, 2011, and then the others go further back in time. So, yeah, they're all admissible for 2011.
Okay. Now getting to the question regarding what equipment is applicable for the assessor or the board to have a lower assessment. Do you have any information on that?
I believe you have that, Christine?
Okay, so you're deferring to the assessor to give you that information?
Right, yeah, we provided her the what we felt was the detail of all the fruit.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add to your presentation? Okay. And going to the assessor?
Well, I don't know if they have cross-examination on the
Yes, so I'm saying,
applicant.
if you'd like to cross-examine or present any other information, go ahead.
I have both, but mainly the only thing cross-examining, I think, would be, I'm not sure if you think, I mean, I realize it's very difficult to get comparables in this kind of industry, but I'm not sure if cold storage, the comps are mainly cold storage units. I don't know if that's really comparable to a state-of-the-art facility to the size of Fruit Patch. They are smaller facilities. It makes sense that they would be probably pushed out, with an economy crunch. Probably what they were storing is oranges, I would guess. It doesn't really say that there was any stone fruit even stored at those cold storage houses or facilities. So that's the only thing that I would think, might make these comps a little skewed as far as relationship to fruit patch. And then my other point is on the second page of your presentation, there's the decline in values, and the percentage declines, but some of your equipment was purchased after 2008. You're having percentage declines from 2008, but there was a big purchase of over $2 million for the pomegranate equipment, and since then there has been large purchases, each year up through the 2012 lien date.
Not large purchases, there hasn't really been.
Over $1 million.
Much for the facility. The only significant additional equipment was the pomegranates, which because of the nature of the pomegranate, wonderful, planting so many acres, that's also a deteriorating market. The citrus is something that was also part of that got into, but that is. Primary thing is also goes back to the revenue. I mean, we have, besides the comparables, you can see the revenue went down 90%, and that includes all aspects of tree fruit and citrus.
And
We have not had a boom from the citrus for them because it's, a difficult thing to get into. You can't just switch over overnight into.
One additional point for the board on that, we are dealing with a snapshot value as of January 1st, 2012. So actually nothing that happened in 2012 is relevant, except for a comparable sale by somebody else. What they had income in 2012 doesn't matter. We really would be looking at 2010 for the value on January 1st of 2011 and 2011 for the January 1st, 2012. So, if you were just looking at their number on page 1 and said, oh, okay, the maximum we could go to would, based on their just number sort of picked out of thin air on page 1, would be 50% for 2012.
Okay.
Okay, so the assessor was directed to value the property as separated, with the stone fruit property separate. When the appropriate factor tables were applied to the equipment submitted by the applicant, the result was an increase from what was previously on the roll by $410,832 for 2011 and $536,059 for 2012. This is the result of less cost reported on the annual business property statement than the amount submitted for the appeals hearing. If you turn to Exhibit A, the first page, and I apologize, I didn't number the pages either, is a summary of all the following pages. So, if you want to see the detail of each item of equipment, you can look at the following pages, but the summary page is the main one to take a look at. And you can see we have columns for 2011 and 2012. There's the cost column, which is what they're required to report, and then the value column, which is after the factor tables have been applied. So Schedule A1 is going to have all that tree fruit equipment that they submitted. The cost is $8,879,285, and the current value, just what we think the current value should be, is $5,542,406 for 2011 and $5,161,042 for 2012. If you go down to the middle of the page where it says adjusted lien date cost/value, you can see that the total cost is coming in at $21.9 million in 2011 and $22.2 million in 2012. That is just for trade fixtures, personal property. That doesn't include real property. So those costs have been reduced to 13.3 and 13.6 million respectively. And then if you go,
that's what the assessor has adjusted currently?
that's just a normal
Okay.
cost without any obsolescence adjustment. And as you can see down under total full value, if we subtract out what was previously assessed on the lien dates, there's actually an adjustment that needs to be made with, a further assessment.
Regarding other packing equipment, sizable amount, what is that?
That would be items such as items that could be used for example, for citrus or other things
like cold storage?
Possibly.
Okay.
So item number 2 in the letter from County Council allows for additional evidence regarding economic obsolescence within the tree fruit industry. Although there have been fluctuations within the tree fruit industry, as with all farming industries, the inconsistencies are normal and do not last for extended periods of time. Exhibit C has a printout of Fruit Patch's website listing the fruit that they process. And then if you go to Exhibit D, I highlighted the types of fruit that they grow. Exhibit D contains applicable pages from the Tulare County Agricultural Commissioner presented to the Tulare County Board of Supervisors that addresses the stone fruit industry within the county. From the charts, you can see that there were major increases over the 2011 year in apricots with a 548% increase, grapes with a 63% increase, pomegranates with a 148% increase. The different varieties of peaches seem to offset each other with an overall increase. Persimmons, pears, and nectarines dropped in comparison to 2011. As noted in the letter from the Ag Commissioner, overall fruit and nut commodities increased by 29%. I realize nuts are involved in there as well. Please see the last page of the handout that shows the 20-year comparison for agriculture. 2011 and 2012 have the highest ag value in history for Tulare County. Although allowing an economic obsolescence adjustment would create an unfair advantage for the applicant over others in the same industry, I should say. If the board decides that the adjustment is in order, the applicant should provide an in-utility computation to the board. That's basically not showing their income, but showing the utility of the production of their equipment. At this point, the applicant has failed to show that stone fruit equipment is not being utilized to the extent it had been in the past for the 2011 and 2012 lien dates. That's it.
Okay. Would you like to, applicant would like to rebut and question the assessor regarding any of the information she just presented?
Christie, on the, so if I understand, you're saying that the assessed value after you went back through is higher than what was previously assessed?
That's correct. I believe that's because you took the audit values rather than the reported values, and the reported values were what was assessed.
I don't think there was much difference on the audit versus report. We have to kind of look through and see what the analysis that you provided, but I think just in general, I think it's clear there has questions in the primary tree fruit industry, which Fruit Patch does, which 90% of that is peach plum. Comparable sale with Zenas facility, that the whole facility sold for about $3
But your comparables aren't necessarily comparable. They're much smaller facilities.
Well, Zenas is not that much smaller than Fruit Patch. But I think it just is kind of collaborative with the other information on the decline in the boxes that we provided over the years. We have a number of years that are, we're also the appeals coming up for the audit. They're 2007 going all the way up to 2013. So we were just trying to, we're trying to provide just a general framework for that. There is some obsolescence here, and you can kind of see by the revenue decrease, from 50%, to higher than that currently, but also their boxes that have been, which is total boxes that run through the facility, has been a significant decline. Obviously there is increase in ag property because of the nut crops and for ag properties, but that's not what Fruit Patch is in. And so what has happened is the growers have changed, and it's not going to be a temporary thing. It takes 4 years to plant trees for it to come into production. And you drive around Reedley, you drive a Dinuba, half the trees that were planted are in something else now. So I don't see where this is a temporary shift. I mean, this is a significant change that has happened, and I don't see it coming back. So.
You did invest over $2 million in pomegranate equipment, and that's shown to have gone up 148% from 2011 to 2012.
You'll find out in a year it's all going to go away because it was primarily Palm Wonderful. All the independents like Fruit Patch. I'm a pomegranate farmer, so I understand. We're pulling our pomegranate trees out. Where pomegranates we're not even including because,
But I mean, you're verbally saying this. I have statistics.
Have statistics on that there's increase because of one company in Bakersfield that has overplanted pomegranates, that makes pomegranates.
This is Tulare County.
Well, they planted in Tulare County as well, too. I mean, Palm Wonderful plants across the valley here. But that is what's happened in the industry is there's overplanting, and so the small independents, Fruit Patch cannot compete with Palm Wonderful. They don't have their own juice facility. And so, but, that is still a small percentage of what, we're talking about is primarily the peach, plum, and nectarine market.
Do you process pomegranates for fresh?
Yes. So ours is fresh. And so that market has deteriorated because there's this overabundance in pomegranates. You can't, a lot of this, there was a planning because the price for pomegranate juice went high in about 2005, 2006, about 2007, 2008. Palm Wonderful just flooded the market, so you can't even give it away now. But that we excluded pomegranates and citrus from our analysis. So, but I'm just saying that when it was put in, it was thought there was going to be a benefit with pomegranates, but it is not.
Okay, so plums and pluots went up 23%, and you said peaches were the other one, which the Freestone went up 52%, the cling peaches dropped 30%, and nectarines dropped 7%.
I think last hearing we provided some other, general, and over the various hearings, the industry trends, and with ends packing kind of went through it, and it's not a secret that packing facility down, in the tree fruit industry.
So if I could ask the assessor, on your very first page, you're showing the 2011 assessment at $13 million and $13,305,000 and $13,625,000 for 2012, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And on your application, and this is from the very beginning, it's been a little bit confusing to us. You're showing that your assessment of value is $1,000,009. I mean, what's your current assessment of the value if that $1,909,000 is not correct?
That $1,009,000 was just for appeals purposes only.
I understand.
We have a value.
We had not separated out just the tree fruit, but our original, when we, our last submission, we were using a 35% reduction
Off of them, of the 13 million?
Correct.
You have a number.
Yeah.
35% of, say 35% of 5.5 or $5 million is going to be about, $2 million or $1.5 million reduction. I'm just using, I don't know where the $5 million, I have to confirm this number here, but let's just say that this number is correct. 35% of $5 million, probably what we'd be looking for. That's very generous considering that their, revenue's gone down at least 50%.
So absent an actual appraisal of the equipment and the property, which we don't have, the 35% is strictly based on these comparable sales, or that's kind of the general consensus of how you...
As well as the reduction to their boxes that have run through the facility and their decline in revenue. So.
Why should we believe that the decline in revenue is because of the crop and not the management?
Because I think that there's industry evidence that kind of shows that. There's been obviously impact in the industry, as well as you have comparable, sales that kind of show that these facilities are being sold or closed down even.
And there's where the conflicting data is coming about. The county's showing things are going up, and you're showing things are going down. That's,
There's been, my understanding is there's been, a consolidation into the, I think there's like 4 large processors out there. Is it Fowler Packing, Gowan, 2 others.
Wawona. And so what has happened is with there's a difference in the industry. These large vertically integrated companies that pack and that basically have farmed their own property and pack and sell are the ones that are surviving. The other small growers are not. And so Fruit Patch and all the other packing houses, which has been the traditional model in the past 50 years in the valley, is shifting. And there's a consolidation in the industry that, it is sort of, shutting down the facilities such as Fruit Patch and all these other independents that use outside growers, because the outside growers is really what's causing the problem. They're not surviving, and so since they're the customer, or not the customer, they're the source of the fruit that goes into Fruit Patch and all these other independent packing facilities. That's why they're being dramatically hit hard, and there may be obviously some shift because there are is growth in the vertically integrated companies like the Wawona Farms that are have significant capital, but companies such as Fruit Patch, which doesn't own any of their own land or do their own farming, they're totally reliant on small growers, and so that's been a shift in the industry.
I'm sorry, I keep having a problem. It seems to me like you're saying that your model for your business is failing, not that the crop is failing. In other words, you say, okay, we should reduce the value of our equipment because we're not getting business. Is that correct?
But they're not. Yeah, they're not getting business, and there's also been a decline in the industry on the number of boxes that are being produced. But it also is that because they're more reliant on the independent small growers, that's where there's been a shift to more consolidation in the industry into 4 primary companies. Those already have their own packing facilities. They're not going to buy the 50 packing facilities that are up and down the state here or in the valley. They're going to make large packing facilities. They're going to expand where they're at. They're not going to go out and buy these these other facilities. And where you did see some is maybe where there's a shift into maybe going into the citrus, but that's going to take a revision of the equipment. That's a different equipment line than what there is for tree fruit. So maybe the building, and we're not arguing the building, decline in the building cost, but the actual tree fruit packing stuff, there's really no market, because if Wawona is going to go and build a addition to their plant, they're going to buy state-of-the-art equipment. They're not going to, they have enough funds. They're not going to buy this older equipment. So,
is this property for sale then?
Properties for sale?
Yeah.
I'm sure it would be for sale if there was a party that was.
It's not listed or anything, or they're staying in business and continuing to go on, and
I don't know what's going to happen this year, but, there's no buyers, so.
What about other parts of the nation? Is this trend going in other parts of the country?
The primary, for peaches, plums, and nectarines are only grown in the Central Valley here, so you don't see that. There are peaches that are grown in Georgia, but they're really not grown in the Midwest, these crops. And so it's really, obviously Georgia, there is a little bit increase in their production of peaches, which obviously affects the California market. But it is primarily a Central Valley crop. So
These are just your opinions, right? Because you aren't certified or have any expertise in this area.
Well, I own a farming company, so I guess.
But that doesn't make you an expert.
But I also deal with a lot of farming companies in the valley through our firm, and also we provided the information in the previous hearings that kind of show similar evidence.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
How much does your farming company supply to this packing facility?
We provided, we sold half of we had 300 acres. We sold half of it last year, and we shut down. We're not going to produce going forward.
You're not going to supply any of your own fruit to this
We went out of business.
Why would you get into the packing facility if you didn't
No,
have
I'm not. No, I'm here representing Fruit Patch.
Right.
I'm saying from my personal standpoint, our farming as a small independent farmer, I took over this. I'm helping my brother. This is my brother's operation, not mine. But our family's farming shut down because we could not compete. So, and we were.
And is this provided as testimony today, or is this evidence for Fruit Patch? I'm confused. It sounds like you're testifying.
I don't understand the difference. I'm telling a fact. So whatever
They're
you
sworn
call
witnesses.
it. I'm saying on behalf of Fruit Patch, I'm also can come in as a grower to kind of help maybe explain why this is happening, but also it's evident on the Fruit Patch side on their happening their decline in volume.
I think, didn't you testify before your family farm, you were one of the larger providers to Fruit Patch?
We're probably more 300 acres. We were
like customer-wise then?
we not initially, but because their volume went down 90%, in the tree fruit industry, that we were probably the third or fourth, but they probably only had 10 growers at that point in time. But now they lost all of our business, so we didn't survive.
You're telling us that you built the facility based upon your production?
The facility was built based upon by Balakians.
On what? I didn't hear that.
By Balakian family. So they had the tree fruit. They had outside growers.
What year did they build it?
Early 90s.
Okay.
And so Fruit Patch bought the facility in 2005 or something like that. When sort of the market was going okay, the decline has really happened. Start gradually happening, but the recent decline in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. As we go along, it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So,
in summary, your previous information that you'd given us in the previous meetings showed a lot of companies who'd gone out of business. And your own testimony indicated that there are some that are vertically integrated that are still in business and evidently are doing fine. From my perspective, when I go into the grocery store, just astonishing to me that seeing what's going on in the ag industry, it doesn't seem to be reflecting on the price of peaches and nectarines in the grocery store. And there's a lot of hands that are in between there, okay? So the question is that I think I'm asking for you to give us a little bit more information regarding why this is happening. why some certain ones at the retail level and at the production level are doing fine when the exact same model of what you're producing in other cases is not doing fine. If I'm understanding you correctly, is that if you're not vertically integrated, you don't have the clout then to sell your goods to compete with what's going on in the market?
Yeah, so what has happened is there's been not only a consolidation at the processor level and farmer level, there's been a consolidation at the retail level, which drives everything, right? And that's where when you see the price, that's who gets most of the benefit here. But when you have companies such as Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club, the Vons, Safeway, whoever owns that are they're the primary companies out there. They require sort of a whole year-round supply and a significant amount. Walmart is not going to come and only buy 10 truckloads of product. They want a significant commitment from their processors. That's why companies such as Fruit Patch, they don't have the volume. They really have a difficult time with their retail customers. The retail customers have also kind of shifted, and a lot of it now is more consumer-oriented. I don't know if you guys remember in the past, you used to have two different types of boxes. You had tray pack and you had volume filled, and that was the only two. Now there's like 50 different versions. You have European market, you have clamshells, you have bags, and it's all driven by the retail market. So that obviously is very costly for companies such as Fruit Patch and other processors to kind of change their model because, this is all a very labor-intensive business. This is not, machinery. I mean, there's a lot of machinery that's involved with it, but you got a lot of packers and graders that are out there. And to the extent you have to, stop the line to kind of change the boxes, and you have all these different pack styles, that's really been sort of a death nail to some extent on this industry. So, it's consolidation. And so consolidation is going to drive out certain types of businesses the way Walmart is driving out the small independent drugstores and retail stores. And you're going to have survivors that are bigger and have more capital and have the ability to survive in this market, and the small companies, like Fruit Patch and the small growers are going to have a difficult time.
Okay. Any further rebuttal from the assessor?
I have one thing to add. In 2010, you put in $2.3 million worth of equipment, or they did, Fruit Patch did. Citrus line processing, baggers, all kinds of things. If the economy was declining, then why would there be such an investment? And now that investment, you're saying, basically isn't worth what?
They try to re-engineer and get into the citrus area, and so, that has been challenging for them. I will say that citrus in general is not having the same type of effects as the peach, plum, and nectarine. But, what we're doing is we're only going off of the tree fruit at this point because that's what, we've been directed by the board is to separate those out. So.
Let me ask you a question. When you purchased this property in 2005, wouldn't you have been better off to have your own supply rather than going out into the industry?
In hindsight, yes, but at that point in time, it didn't have the same factors as what there is now. As you can tell, when this facility was purchased, I believe the boxes that we're going through were about 13 million boxes. So that in itself would have led someone to believe this was a good investment.
Weren't those boxes going through the growers' own boxes?
Part of those were
processors' own boxes going through there. Wasn't he vertically integrated prior to the sale?
Balakian was, yes.
How many boxes did he process?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of that, but he obviously was a large part of that boxes, so even that is now declined.
So virtually, when you looked at this thing, you had a full packing house thing now, you have to go out and solicit for growers because you don't have it. Is that a bad decision?
In hindsight, it was challenging, but as you know, it was a change in the whole demographics of the industry. I mean, in 2000, probably 2003, when I started looking at this, it wasn't like it is, recently. And obviously, one of the thing is the the recession with regarding banking. As a farmer, I will testify to this. Banks were providing loans easier to farmers until they had to change when the whole collapse of the banking industry happened 2008, 2009. Now it's, more difficult for growers to get financing, especially tree fruit growers that can't really show a profit on their books to kind of obtain financing to continue. So you have companies such as my family's that basically is going to not continue because they're not going to be able to get financing.
I have one last thing, and then
Sure.
Okay, what's the difference you have on your second page of your handout? There's packed and handled. Now, the packed equipment, the packed income hasn't really gone down as significantly as your total income that you did your statistics on. So if it's packed, that's the machinery, right?
Well, packed and handled are both. So one of them is basically packed for purposes of them selling it themselves. The other ones is the handled is basically outside packing facilities that use their shed to pack.
Store?
No, to pack.
Oh.
To pack and to store, but they don't really sell it under their own label. They actually co-pack, I guess, maybe a way to think about it.
Okay.
For other companies, and that was more prevalent in the early time. I think there's still an overall decline.
Are these numbers pounds, tons?
This is boxes.
Boxes?
They're boxes. On the pack out numbers.
Anything
So
else?
the total is what's going through and utilizing their equipment.
Okay.
This is, primarily, again, tree fruit.
So it's mainly the handled coming from other.
Yes, the handle
It's
is
gone
outside.
down. The packed itself has kind of fluctuated, but through 2011.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. Apologize, I'm kind of going back. So I'm looking at the original application and I'm looking at 2011. The value on the roll was stated as $22,553,555. That's stated in your packet for the application of a changed assessment, same number, they match up. Your applicant's opinion and value is $18 million with a 35% reduction in the improvements and fixtures and personal property. The auditor the county has provided that the value is $13,305,322. So, so in your presentation, you were reducing the actual cost, not the audit value. So you really haven't given us a number of what you think the opinion of your opinion of value. To me, when I look at this, is actually more than what the county has provided to you.
No, that's I think it includes real estate.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
The October numbers include the value of the real estate. Today's numbers do not.
Looking at, so are you looking at that schedule of the 22?
I'm looking at this one.
Yes, I think, we're just, the discussion here is just on the last two line items, the 9.8 and then the 3.2, which some of those is going to be approximately her number, which she's adjusted a bit, but in other words, her 13 million is approximately the 9.8 and the 3.2.
Okay, gotcha. I gotcha. Okay. I apologize. I understand.
Because we're not requesting a reduction to the real estate.
Right.
And so on this, we were showing about 3 point. 3.4 plus another million, so 4.4 million, but that also included equipment that wasn't, just
Right.
fruit packing.
Yeah, and I apologize, I was
That's all
mixing
right.
cost with value, so those numbers were just so close that it looked right off the bat that that was comparable, but.
Okay, again, just because I don't seem to be catching on here, 35% of what number?
It would be the 5 million.
5 million.
On her schedule, it would be the 5.5.
Front page of her, the assessors.
Correct.
All right, so you want to reduce that $5 million by 35%.
Correct.
And not the other equipment, not the real estate, nothing else, just that one thing.
That's correct.
And the 35% is based on the comparable sales that you provided to us, which is really, it didn't look like they were applying much value to the equipment. It was just more of the packing facility. That's what I'm struggling with. The 35% reduction is for the facility, and you don't want a reduction in the facility. I don't see anything that's addressed that
I think
what says the value reduction is for this
I
equipment.
think what they're getting at is that if a cold storage plant in Timbuktu, okay,
Right.
relative to the market, is declined by 35% because of its utility, that's a reflection on what could be going into that cold storage plant. I mean, it could be grapes, or it could be tree fruit, or it could be anything, but the facility, the shell of the industry's need has declined in those areas. Okay, I think that's where the stretch is. It's not a direct comparative of production equipment.
Right.
All right, but you have a cost value on that $5 million worth of equipment of $8,800,000.
That's the assessed value, right, Christie, on your schedule?
The 5,000
the
is the
cost?
assessed value.
The cost was 8.8 million, but the assessed value is coming down to 5 million.
Okay, and so you still want to apply the 35% to the 5 million?
Yes, off the assessed value through the
Off the assessed value.
economic obsolescence in addition to what the regular depreciation would have shown for the tree fruit only equipment. I mean, we originally said for the whole thing, but at this point, I think that is the primary issue that we are concerned with.
All right, Christie, does that 5 million include the pomegranate equipment?
No, I think I have to go through and look. I think that should be tree fruit only equipment. We excluded the pomegranate and the, because I think that was in
I
your,
thought they
in
were
the board
considered.
information, to exclude the pomegranate and citrus equipment. So ours is only tree fruit.
It didn't specify to exclude the pomegranate.
I think it did. That's what we did, correct, Leah? Yeah. It
It's
is,
under Exhibit B is the letter with the directive.
well,
The letter didn't say pomegranates one way or the other. We just said other. We said tree fruit and other. I'm sorry, that came out ambiguous with
Pomegranates grow
regard to
on
the
trees too,
pomegranates.
so
Well-
I just assumed.
Yeah.
Tree
It's not
fruit.
just standard
They're not
peach
stone
plum
fruit.
nectarine. The pomegranate and the thing is, the pomegranate and the citrus equipment is kind of one and the same, is used. They kind of, what they do is they shine the outside. They don't shine peach and plums and nectarines. They shine the pomegranate and they shine citrus. So that's kind of what that piece of equipment is used for.
Brushing equipment.
Yeah, so just so you know, that our number that we provided excluded the pomegranate and citrus, which I think is what you used to come up with the 5 million.
What's the packing line totes system?
That's for tree fruit.
Oh, okay. I took it that was
Orange,
pomegranate.
citrus, you pack
3.5
different.
million,
You
yeah.
pack differently. No, you don't use totes. Totes is a small band, and citrus is and a totes basically what a grower uses to put the fruit in, and the totes go through the facility. But that's for tree fruit, meaning peach, plums, nectarines.
Okay. Mr. Fowler, any other questions?
I have none.
Mr. McKinley?
No.
Mr. Morris? Okay. Sure.
Anything else?
The pomegranate equipment was purchased in 2008?
About then, I've looked, 2008, 2010, around there. We can get you confirmation on.
Well, the reason
It's
I'm
the-
asking is because in 2008, let me make sure. On other equipment, we only have $28,000. In 2010, there's a citrus line put in.
It would be 2010. 2008, yeah, it was about 2010. Because it's the same time the citrus line went in. It's the same piece of equipment.
Yeah, there's,
Because in my prior presentation, I had something from 2008 as the pomegranate line, because then you weren't appealing 2011 and 2012.
it may have been a smaller piece of equipment for the pomegranates. That's,
Over $2 million.
yeah, $2 million must be 2010, I think. It's whenever the citrus line was put in. But, and that was all excluded from the $5 million number that we provided.
yeah, it looks like it's, I see it on the 2010 audit cost was 2.3 million.
Right.
Yeah, and that's not,
But when you look at the detail, it says citrus line in the 2010 year.
right, citrus line bagger, citrus line processing equipment.
But again, that's part of the same because it's plots they put on the.
Okay,
No, I just want to make sure everybody said everything they want to say.
On the board, I don't know if they have any closing arguments.
yes, I was going to get to that. Basically, we'll take closing arguments from, or a summary and arguments from applicant first. Anything you'd like to summarize?
Just that, while we've kind of gone over, the industry trends and I don't, on the back when she has that there's been an increase in peach production, I don't think that that's necessarily untrue, or it's not untrue, obviously, from the factors. But what's happened is there's less growers growing more peaches or more stone fruit on less acreage. If you look into the details, that's what you'll see. But regardless of that, there has been an impact on Fruit Patch because of the type of business they do and not being vertically integrated. So there has been a significant decline in their business and in profitability. And that's why we're asking for the reduction, because I don't think if they were actually to go out of business and try to sell that equipment, I think there'd be a significant decline in the value if they could even sell it. I think, as Wayne pointed out, there's probably not really any buyers out there for it.
Assessor?
And then hand it off to you? Okay. I just wanted to make some legal comments for the board. This is a really interesting argument, and it may be a really good argument, but even at an administrative or an informal hearing, it still has to be supported by evidence. My concern with the evidence presented at the last hearing was that it was hearsay and it wasn't provided with the foundation that's required to bring hearsay evidence in. Now, your board can certainly consider hearsay evidence in making its decision, but the evidence has to be presented properly, which it wasn't, and then you also need to have another basis for making your opinion other than the hearsay evidence. And going through these hearings that have taken place on multiple dates, the applicant's agent has been afforded numerous opportunities to present you with competent evidence, from specific sources with specific dates and information. And instead, today, what you've been given is information from, quote, Pearson Realty. The information given doesn't appear to be substantially similar to what you're considering, but it's also, again, presented just as this is from Pearson Realty, and we don't have any specific information. In contrast, the assessor provided your board with the letter from Marilyn Kinoshita, the agricultural commissioner, and then which has that date, and then the specific breakdown for Tulare County, which is where Fruit Patch is located, what we're considering. And so I'd just like to ask your board to keep that in mind when you go back to consider this. And with that, I'll turn it over to Christy. Christy, there you go.
That was a pretty good closing argument, but the only thing I'd like to add is that the problem with giving an economic obsolescence reduction to this taxpayer, which is one of the biggest in the county, if not the biggest, it makes an unfair advantage to the smaller fruit packing companies that are paying property tax based on the state-issued schedules, where the state examines every year the industries and puts that into their computations. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, from my perspective, we're sitting here with certain information that we can verify ourselves in the marketplace in general. Just to kind of give you an idea, I've heard through the news that we've had 50 dairymen file bankruptcy this year. Okay. At the same time, we have, let's say, in one case in the Dinuba area, that a company, major company, from what I understand, paid about $18,500 an acre for vines and then tore them out and replanted them. So in effect, what I'm saying is that from our perspective, we're seeing a very wide swing within the ag industry, people doing well and people doing poorly. And I can't close my ears to it. This is things that I absorb in just as a general observations of what's going on in the marketplace. That's what makes this, as you pointed out, that in effect what it amounts to is economic obsolescence is a difficult thing to judge. So that's what we're trying to do. Any other comment from any of the other board members? Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and take this under advisement, and you'll have a result within 60 days.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
I believe the only other person in the audience is Mr. Roon,
Yes.
and I've been advised by the assessor that that matter has been resolved.
Okay.
It was not on the non-confirmed attendance list for today.
Correct. Mr. Roon and the assessor's office have come to an agreement about the assessed value of his property, and I believe Mr. Roon has signed a withdrawal based on the proposed. No, I'm getting a no from the staff in the audience. So we would like the board to postpone this particular hearing. Mr. Roon is here. Give us time to go ahead and process the corrections, obtain the withdrawal, and then by next month's calendar, we believe it to be a settled issue.
Is that agreeable by the applicant?
I believe so. I hadn't heard anything about a notice of withdrawal. Yes, if there's something for me to sign, I'll be glad to.
Well, then we're going to continue this, so it's not a withdrawal. So if something does change, that it's still going to come before the board. Okay.
Then we would want a motion to postpone.
Yes. Let's go ahead and just do that one as a separate item. Do I hear a motion to postpone agenda item number 5.
I move that we postpone agenda item number 5, APN 068-120-026-000.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Okay, now we're down to the withdrawals, and I believe that we've taken care of everything on the agenda with the exception of the withdrawal calendar. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and entertain a motion to accept the withdrawal calendar as presented.
I move we accept the withdrawal calendar as presented. Do you want me to read all of those APNs?
No. Had a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. So that continues, that finishes the agenda items. There is currently no closed session items with the exception of Fruit Patch.
So we let the clerk know we're going to go off recording at this point for right now.
So is there any other comments by the assessor that you would like to make before we adjourn, sir? Okay. Then the Assessment Appeals Board for February 24th, 2014 is now adjourned, and we're going into closed session.